The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was old, very old. For 2,000 years, young soldiers from many planets had come here to learn the art of war. They called it the Galactic Military Academy. On this day, 200 new cadets sat in a large room with seats that went up like stairs. They came from 37 different species. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had skin that changed colors. Some had no skin at all. But they all had one thing in common. They wanted to become warriors. Instructor Palax walked into the room. He was a Dreschen, a species known for their size and strength. He stood 3 meters tall. He had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. His scales were the color of dried blood, dark red and rough. When he moved, the floor shook a little. The cadets went silent. Palax looked at them with his yellow eyes. He had been teaching for 300 years. He had seen many young soldiers come and go. Some became great warriors. Some died in battle. Some quit on the first day. He could usually tell which was which just by looking at them. Today, he saw the usual mix. Eager ones, scared ones, proud ones, stupid ones. "Welcome to your first lesson," Palax said. His voice was deep, like rocks grinding together. A small device on his chest translated his words so everyone could understand. "Today, we study a new species. They joined the Galactic Compact 40 years ago. They call themselves humans." The room filled with whispers. A cadet from the Velian species raised his hand. The Velians were tall and thin, with purple skin and 3 eyes. They were known for being smart and proud. "Too proud," some said. "Instructor," the Velian said, "why would we study humans? They are new. They are weak. They have no history of galactic warfare. What could they possibly teach us?" Some other cadets nodded. They had all heard about humans. Small creatures. Soft bodies. No claws, no scales, no natural weapons. They lived on a wet planet covered in water. They had only discovered space travel recently. In the eyes of the galaxy, they were babies. Palax made a clicking sound with his mouthparts. It was the Dreschen way of smiling. "That is exactly what the Marathian Empire thought," he said. 3 years ago, they attacked a human colony on the edge of known space. The Marathians sent 500 warriors. The humans had no military there, just farmers and miners. The cadets leaned forward. "The Marathians lost," Palax said simply. "All 500 of them. The farmers and miners killed them all." Silence filled the room. A Kethrani cadet made a nervous sound. The Kethrani were small creatures with 6 eyes and soft gray bodies. They were not fighters by nature. They came to the academy to learn defense, not attack. "That must be a mistake," the Kethrani said. "How could farmers defeat trained warriors?" Palax walked to the center of the room. His heavy feet made loud sounds on the metal floor. "That is what we are here to learn," he said. "You all think you know what war is. You think it is about numbers, about weapons, about tactics. You think the stronger army always wins." He pressed a button on his wrist. The lights in the room went dim. A large holographic screen appeared in the air in front of them. "You are wrong," Palax said. "War is about will. It is about spirit. It is about how much pain you can take and still keep fighting. And in this area, humans are different from any species we have ever seen." The screen flickered to life. It showed a planet, blue and green and white, beautiful in a simple way. "This is Earth," Palax said. "The human homeworld. What I am about to show you happened before humans discovered space travel. They were still fighting each other, still learning what they were capable of." The image changed. Now it showed a beach. Gray sand, gray water, gray sky, smoke everywhere. This battle happened in a place called Inchin, Palak said. The year was 1950 by human counting. About 300 years ago. The cadets watched as small figures appeared on the screen. They were humans wearing cloth uniforms and metal helmets. They carried simple weapons that fired metal projectiles. Primitive things compared to plasma rifles and energy shields. They are so small, a cadet whispered. Yes, Palax agreed. Watch what they do. The humans ran from boats onto the beach. Explosions erupted all around them. Fire and smoke and death everywhere. The cadets could hear the sounds through the archive recording. Screaming, gunfire, the deep boom of artillery. A human fell. Then another. Then 5 more. Their bodies lay in the sand. Blood mixed with the water dot, that the others kept running forward. Why do they not retreat? The valiant cadet asked. His voice was not proud anymore. It was confused. Their losses are too high. Any sensible army would pull back. Palax did not answer. He just pointed at the screen. A human officer appeared in the footage. His name was Commander Taesung. He was not a large man. He was thin and tired-looking. But his eyes were hard. Taesung raised his weapon and shouted something. The translation appeared at the bottom of the screen. Forward. Keep moving. Do not stop. And they did not stop. They ran through fire. They ran through death. They climbed over the bodies of their fallen friends and kept going. The Kathrani cadet covered 2 of his 6 eyes. This is madness, he said quietly. Palax turned to look at him. The old instructor's yellow eyes were serious. No, Palax said. This is human. The holographic screen showed Commander Taesung leading his soldiers through the chaos. Water splashed around their legs. Sand flew into the air with every explosion. The sound of gunfire was constant, like angry thunder that would not stop. Taesung was shouting orders. His voice was calm even though death was everywhere. He pointed left. He pointed right. He kept his soldiers moving like a river flowing toward the enemy. Then a bullet hit him. The cadets saw it happen. One moment Taesung was standing tall. The next moment he stumbled. Blood appeared on his shoulder. Red and wet and terrible. A Marathian cadet stood up from his seat. The Marathians were large creatures with gray skin and small black eyes. They were known as fierce warriors. But this one looked sick. He should fall, the Marathian said. That wound is serious. He should fall. But Taesung did not fall. He pressed his hand against the wound. Blood ran through his fingers. His face twisted with pain. But he stayed on his feet. Then something else happened. A young woman ran toward him through the explosions. She wore the same uniform as the soldiers, but she carried a bag instead of a weapon. Her name was Yuna. She was a medic. Yuna did not look at the fire around her. She did not look at the bodies in the sand. She only looked at Taesung. She reached him and dropped to her knees. Her hands moved fast as she opened her bag and pulled out bandages. She's going to die, the valiant cadet said. She stopped moving. In a battle zone, stopping means death. But Yuna did not die. She worked on Taesung's wound while explosions made the ground shake. Her hands were steady. Her face was focused. In 90 seconds, she had stopped the bleeding and wrapped the wound tight. Taesung looked at her. He said something. The translation appeared on screen. Thank you. Now go help the others. Yuna nodded and ran toward another fallen soldier. Taesung picked up his weapon. He looked at his men. He looked at the enemy position ahead. Blood was already soaking through the bandage on his shoulder. He started walking forward again. No, the Marathian cadet said. He was shaking his head. No. This is not possible. He is wounded. He should go back. He should get proper medical care. Why is he still fighting? Palax paused the footage. Taesoon was frozen on the screen, one foot in the air, his weapon raised, his wounded shoulder red with blood. "This is your first lesson," Palak said. "Humans do not stop when they are hurt. Pain does not make them retreat. In many cases, pain makes them fight harder." He let that sink in for a moment. The cadets were very quiet. "Their bodies are weak," Palak continued. "Compared to Dreshans, they are fragile. Compared to Marathians, they are soft. But inside their minds, something is different. They have what they call the will to fight. It is stronger than their bodies. It is stronger than fear. Sometimes it is stronger than death itself." The archive moved to new footage. The beach was gone. Now the screen showed mountains covered in snow. The cold looked terrible. Ice hung from the rocks like frozen tears. "This is a different battle," Palak said. "The humans call it the Battle of Chosen. It happened in the same war, a few months after Incheon. The temperature was 30 degrees below freezing. A human soldier appeared on screen. His name was Sergeant Dong-hyuk. He was a young man with a thin face and dark eyes. Ice crystals clung to his eyebrows. His lips were blue from cold. His unit was trapped, Palak explained. Enemy forces surrounded them on all sides. They had little food, little ammunition, no hope of rescue. They were ordered to hold their position. For how long? The Kethrani cadet asked. 17 days. The room erupted in noise. Cadets talked over each other. Some were confused. Some were angry. Some were scared. "Quiet," Palak commanded. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone went silent. "Watch," he said. The footage showed Dong-hyuk's unit fighting day after day. They ate snow because they had no water. They used their frozen dead as shields. They fought with empty rifles, using them as clubs when the ammunition ran out. One scene showed Dong-hyuk carrying a wounded soldier on his back while firing his weapon with one hand. His feet left bloody prints in the snow. His toes had turned black from frostbite, but he kept walking. Another scene showed the soldiers huddled together at night for warmth. They were so cold that their bodies had stopped shivering. That was a bad sign. It meant they were dying. But when morning came, they got up and fought again. "I do not understand," a valiant cadet said. His voice was small. Why did they not surrender? Their situation was hopeless. Surrender would have saved their lives. Palak made his clicking sound again. But this time, it was not a smile. It was something sadder. "You asked the wrong question," he said. "The question is not why they did not surrender. The question is why surrender never occurred to them." He pointed at Dong-hyuk on the screen. The young sergeant was standing in the snow, surrounded by enemies, wounded and freezing and starving. He was smiling. "Humans have a saying," Palak said. "They say, 'Death before dishonor.' Many species say similar things. But humans mean it. They would rather die fighting than live with shame. For them, giving up is worse than death." The Marathian cadet sat back down. His gray face had gone pale. His hands were shaking. "This is wrong," he said quietly. "This is not how war works. This is not how living creatures behave. They should want to survive. Survival is the most basic instinct." Palak walked toward him. The old instructor looked down at the young cadet with something like sympathy. "That is what makes humans dangerous," Palak said. "They have moved beyond basic instincts. They fight for ideas, for honor, for love, for things you cannot see or touch. And when a creature fights for something greater than its own life," he did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. The cadets understood. The archive kept playing. More battles, more blood, more impossible acts of courage. And with each one, The cracks in the cadets' confidence grew wider and deeper. They had come to the academy thinking they understood war. They were beginning to realize they understood nothing. The cadets had been watching for 2 hours. Some of them had stopped blinking. Their eyes were locked on the screen, wide and afraid. They could not look away. The archive showed a jungle now, green and wet and thick with plants. The air looked heavy with heat. Insects the size of fists flew through the trees. A human soldier appeared on screen. Her name was Jizu. She was small, even by human standards. She had short black hair and a face covered in dirt and sweat. Blood ran down her left arm from a wound near her shoulder, but she was not alone. She was carrying another soldier on her back, a man twice her size. His eyes were closed. His uniform was soaked with blood from a wound in his stomach. "He is dead," a valiant cadet said. "She is carrying a corpse." "No," Palox replied. "He is alive. Barely. She is trying to save him." The footage followed Jisu as she walked through the jungle. Every step was pain. Every breath was struggle. The man on her back weighed more than she did. Her leg shook. Her wounded arm hung useless at her side. Enemy soldiers were hunting her. The cadets could see them in the background, moving through the trees like shadows. "How far did she carry him?" the Kithrani cadet asked. His voice was barely a whisper. 3 kilometers, Palox said, through enemy territory, while wounded. It took her 4 hours. Did she make it? Palox paused the footage. Jisu was frozen on screen, her face twisted with effort, her body bent under the weight of her friend. "Yes," Palox said. "She made it. He survived because of her." A strange sound came from somewhere in the room. One of the cadets was crying. No one looked to see who it was. They were all too focused on the screen. The archive changed again. New battle. New horror. This time, it showed a defensive position on a rocky hill. Captain Sung-ho stood behind a wall of broken stones, directing his soldiers. He was an older man with gray in his hair and lines on his face. He had been fighting for 20 years. His body was covered in old scars. Enemy forces attacked this position at dawn, Palox explained. They outnumbered the humans 10-1. 1,000 against 100. The attack began on screen. Waves of enemy soldiers rushed up the hill. Sung-ho's men fired their weapons. Enemies fell. More came. The humans fired again. More enemies fell. Still more came. The fighting continued. Hour after hour. The pile of enemy dead grew higher. The humans ran low on ammunition. They used knives. They used rocks. They used their bare hands. 42 hours, Palox said. Captain Sung-ho held that position for 42 hours without sleep, without food, without rest. A Dreshen cadet near the front raised his claw. "Instructor, that is impossible. Living creatures need rest. Their bodies would shut down. Humans have a capacity others do not," Palox replied. "When pushed to the limit, their bodies produce chemicals to keep them awake and fighting. They call it adrenaline. It is like a drug that their own bodies make. But eventually, it must fail," the Dreshen said. "Yes, eventually. But by then, the battle was over. The enemy retreated. 100 humans had defeated 1,000 attackers." The Morathian cadet who had spoken earlier suddenly stood up. His gray skin had gone almost white. His small black eyes were wild with something the other cadets had never seen before. Fear. "Enough!" he shouted. "This cannot be real. These must be lies. No species is like this. You are trying to scare us with fake stories." Palox did not raise his voice. He did not need to. "These archives are verified by 3 independent sources," he said calmly. The Galactic Historical Council has confirmed their accuracy. They are not lies. They are truth. Then they are exceptions. The Marathian yelled. Individual cases of madness. Normal humans cannot be like this. Palox pressed a button on his wrist. The archive changed again. This footage is from 3 years ago, he said. The Thornback incursion. Perhaps you remember it. The cadets leaned forward. The Thornback incursion was famous. A group of insectoid raiders had attacked a human colony on the frontier. The raiders were known for their cruelty. They took slaves. They destroyed everything they touched. The footage showed a Mayan colony. Simple buildings made of metal and plastic. No walls, no weapons, no military of any kind. Just miners, farmers, and their families. A woman appeared on screen. Her name was Yumbai. She was middle-aged with a round face and kind eyes. She looked like someone's mother. She looked like someone who baked bread and sang songs to children. She was holding a mining drill modified into a weapon. When the Thornbacks attacked, this colony had no soldiers, Palox explained. No one to protect them. Help was 5 days away. The footage showed Yumbai organizing the colonists. She gave orders. She built barricades. She turned mining equipment into weapons and fertilizer into explosives. She had no military training, Palox said. She was a farmer. But when her home was threatened, she became something else. A man appeared beside Yumbai. Her husband, Ho Jin. He was thin and gentle-looking, with glasses and soft hands. He looked like a teacher or a scientist. He was holding an axe. Ho Jin led the counterattack, Palox said. 16 civilians against 200 Thornback warriors. The footage showed the battle. It was brutal. It was bloody. The colonists fought with mining tools and kitchen knives and their bare hands. They screamed and cried and died, but they kept fighting, and in the end, they won. The room was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Several cadets had left their seats and were standing near the exits. Their bodies wanted to run. The Marathian cadet slowly sat back down. His anger was gone. Only fear remained. How? He whispered. How did farmers defeat warriors? Palox looked at him with ancient eyes. Because the warriors were fighting for territory, he said. The farmers were fighting for their children. He let the silence stretch for a long moment. That is the difference, Palox continued. That is what makes humans dangerous. They do not fight like soldiers. They fight like parents protecting their young. Like animals defending their nest. There is no limit to what they will do. No pain they will not endure. No sacrifice they will not make. The archive showed Yunbai after the battle. She was covered in blood. Her hands were shaking. Tears ran down her face. But behind her, her children were alive. Remember this, Palox said. When you face humans in battle, you are not fighting soldiers. You are fighting something much worse. You are fighting love. The fear in the room was thick enough to taste. Palox paused the archive. The room fell into darkness for a moment before the normal lights came back on. The sudden brightness made some cadets blink and shield their eyes. We will take a short break, Palox announced. No one moved. The cadets sat frozen in their seats. Some stared at nothing. Some stared at each other. Some stared at Palox, hoping the old instructor would tell them it was all a joke. A test, a trick to scare new students, but Palox's face showed no humor. His yellow eyes were serious and sad. You may stand. You may walk. You may use the facilities. Palox gestured toward the doors. But do not leave the building. We are not finished. Slowly, the cadets began to move. They stood on shaking legs. They walked toward the doors on unsteady feet. Several of them bumped into each other. They did not apologize. They did not even notice. The Kathrani cadet with 6 eyes approached Palox. His small gray body was trembling. "Instructor," he said quietly, "I do not think I can watch more." Palox looked down at him. The old Dreshen's face softened slightly. "You must," he said. "This knowledge could save your life someday." "Or end it," the Kathrani replied. Palox made no answer. Because the cadet was right. 43 cadets did not return from the break. They simply walked out of the building and kept walking. Some would quit the academy entirely. Some would request transfer to non-combat roles. Some would never speak of this day again. The remaining 157 cadets returned to their seats. Their faces were changed. The eagerness was gone. The pride was gone. Something else had taken its place. Awareness. "Let us continue," Palox said. He activated the archive again. But this time, he did not show a battle. He showed something different. A hospital room appeared on screen. White walls. Clean sheets. Soft light. In the bed lay a creature that was clearly not human. It had blue skin and thin limbs and a face like a melted candle. It was breathing slowly, weakly. It was dying. A human sat beside the bed. A soldier named Mi Young. She was still wearing her combat uniform. Blood and dirt covered her clothes. Her face was tired and pale, but she was singing. The translation appeared on screen. It was a lullaby, a simple song about stars and dreams and peaceful sleep. This creature was her enemy, Palox said. Hours before this footage was taken, Mi Young had been fighting against his species. She had killed many of them. They had killed many of her friends. The dying creature opened his eyes. He looked at Mi Young. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. Mi Young took his hand. She kept singing. She stayed with him for 3 hours, Palox said, until he died. She did not know his name. She did not know his family. She only knew that he was alone and afraid, and she did not want him to die alone. The room was silent except for the sound of the lullaby. This, Palox said, is what makes humans truly frightening. The valiant cadet shook his head in confusion. I do not understand. This is kindness, compassion. How is this frightening? Palox turned to face him. The old instructor's 4 arms crossed over his chest. Because it shows their capacity, Palox replied. A creature that can kill without mercy and comfort without hesitation. A creature that can hate and love with equal intensity. A creature that can be your worst nightmare or your greatest ally, depending on how you treat them. He walked among the cadets, his heavy footsteps echoing in the quiet room. The Morathian Empire learned this the hard way, he continued. They attacked the humans, expecting easy victory. They found something else. They found a species that would pursue them across the galaxy. A species that would never forgive. Never forget. Never stop. He stopped walking and turned to face them all. But the humans also showed mercy. When the Morathians finally surrendered, the humans did not destroy them. They did not enslave them. They offered peace. They offered friendship. The same hands that had killed thousands reached out in kindness. The Morathian cadet was crying. Tears ran down his gray cheeks. He did not try to hide them. My father fought against the humans, he said, his voice breaking. He told me stories. He said they were like demons, that they would not stop coming no matter how many you killed, that they smiled when they were wounded, that they laughed in the face of death. He looked up at Palox with wet eyes. He also said they were the first enemy to treat their prisoners with dignity, the first to offer fair surrender terms, the first to help rebuild what they had destroyed. Palox nodded slowly. Your father understood. Understood what? That humans are not simple creatures. They are not good or evil. They are both. They contain everything: love and hate, mercy and cruelty, gentleness and violence. And they switch between these states faster than any species we have ever encountered. The archive showed new footage now. A human colony after a natural disaster. Earthquakes had destroyed the buildings. Fires burned everywhere. People were trapped under rubble. Rescue workers dug through the debris with their bare hands. They worked for days without stopping. They saved strangers. They carried children through flames. They gave their food to others and went hungry themselves. 3 years before this disaster, these same humans had fought a brutal war, Palak said. Some of these rescue workers had killed enemy soldiers. And now they were risking their lives to save people they had never met. A Dresian cadet raised his claw. How do they do it? How do they go from warriors to this? Palak considered the question carefully. We do not fully understand, he admitted. Our scientists have studied humans for 40 years. They have examined their brains, their bodies, their culture, their history, and we still do not have complete answers. He paused, choosing his next words with care. But we have theories. We believe it comes from their short lifespans. Humans live only 80 to 100 years. By galactic standards, they are gone in the blink of an eye. How does a short life make them this way? The Dresian asked. Because they know their time is limited, Palak replied. Every moment matters to them. Every choice. Every relationship. They love fiercely because they know they will not love forever. They fight hard because they know they will not fight forever. They pack the intensity of 1,000 years into a single short life. The archive showed one final image. A human family. Mother, father, 2 children. They were standing in front of a small house on a green planet. They were smiling. They looked happy. This is what humans fight for, Palak said. Not territory. Not resources. Not power. This, their families. Their loved ones. Their homes. He let the image stay on screen for a long moment. And when you threaten what a human loves, you will learn what fear truly means. 20 more cadets stood and left the room. Their legs could no longer hold them. Their minds could no longer process what they had seen and heard. The remaining 137 cadets stayed. But they were not the same cadets who had entered the room that morning. They were something else now. They were educated. The lights in the room came on fully. The archive screen disappeared. Instructor Palak stood at the center of the room, looking at what remained of his class. 137 cadets. Less than 70% of those who had started the day. The empty seats looked like wounds in the room, but the cadets who remained sat straight in their chairs. Their eyes were clear. The fear was still there, but something else had joined it. Respect, understanding, a new way of seeing the galaxy. You have questions, Palak said. It was not a question. He knew they had questions. Everyone who watched the human archives had questions. The Kethrani cadet raised a trembling limb. Why did you show us this? What is the purpose? Palak walked slowly toward him. His heavy feet made the floor vibrate with each step. 40 years ago, Palak began, humans discovered they were not alone in the universe. They sent a ship into deep space and found us. The Galactic Compact. Hundreds of species. Thousands of worlds. We had been traveling between stars for 10,000 years. They had just learned to leave their own planet. He paused, letting the cadets imagine that moment. We had a choice to make, he continued. Some wanted to conquer them, take their resources, use their planet. They were weak after all, new, easy prey. The Marathian cadet shifted in his seat. His species had been among those who wanted war. Others wanted to ignore them, Palak said. Let them develop on their own. Check back in a few centuries. What could such a young species offer us? He turned to face the whole room. But a few of us looked deeper. We studied their history. We watched how they treated each other. We saw their wars, their cruelties, their terrible capacity for destruction. His yellow eyes grew distant, remembering. And we also saw their art, their music, their love, their endless, beautiful desire to explore and learn and grow. We saw a species that had faced extinction many times and always survived. A species that fell down and got back up. Again and again and again. He focused on the cadets once more. We chose peace. We invited them into the compact. Not because we pitied them. Not because we wanted their resources. We chose peace because we were afraid of what would happen if we chose war. The valiant cadet leaned forward. The Galactic Compact has never lost a war in 10,000 years. Why would we fear humans? Because we calculated the cost, Palox replied. Our mathematicians ran the numbers. If we went to war with humans, we would eventually win. Our technology is superior. Our numbers are greater. In 100 years, perhaps 200, we would defeat them. Then why not fight? The valiant asked. Because the cost would be everything we have, Palox said quietly. The mathematicians predicted we would lose 60% of our fleet, 40% of our colonies, billions of lives across hundreds of worlds. And even after our victory, humans would keep fighting. They would become an endless wound in our side. They would hit us and run, attack and vanish, make us bleed slowly over centuries. He shook his massive head. No victory is worth that price. So we chose friendship instead. And it was the wisest decision the Compact ever made. A young Dreshen cadet raised her claw. You said this knowledge could save our lives. How? Palox walked toward her. Despite his size and strength, his movement was gentle. Because someday you may meet a human in battle, he said. And when that day comes, you will remember what you learned today. You will know that the small, soft creature in front of you is more dangerous than any weapon. You will know that surrender is better than death. You will know that humans show mercy to those who ask for it. He looked around the room at all the remaining cadets. Or perhaps you will meet a human as an ally. And you will know that there is no better friend in the galaxy. That a human who calls you friend will die for you without hesitation. That they will share their last food, their last water, their last breath with you. The archive screen flickered back to life one final time. It showed Sergeant Donkyuk again, the young soldier from the frozen mountains. Surrounded by enemies, wounded, starving, freezing, smiling. I have taught warriors for 300 years, Palox said. I have trained soldiers from every species in the Compact. The strongest, the fastest, the most intelligent, the most ruthless. He pointed at the image of Donkyuk. None of them frighten me like humans do. None of them inspire me like humans do. They are a contradiction that should not exist. They are impossible. And yet, there they are. The archive froze on that image. Donkyuk's smile, his broken body, his unbroken spirit. This is your lesson, Palox said. Remember it. Remember what you saw today. Remember the farmers who defeated warriors. The soldier who carried her friend 3 kilometers while wounded. The captain who held his position for 42 hours. The woman who sang to her dying enemy. He walked toward the door. His lesson was almost over. Remember the humans, he said, pausing at the threshold. Because they will certainly remember you. The cadets filed out slowly after he left. They walked in silence. They did not speak to each other. They did not look at each other. Each was lost in their own thoughts. The valiant cadet passed a window and stopped. Outside, in the darkness of space, A human ship was docking at the station. It was small compared to the compact vessels. Simple. Nothing special to look at. But now he knew what was inside that ship. What kind of creatures walked its corridors. What they were capable of. He watched the ship dock, then turned and walked away. That night, the cadets had nightmares. They dreamed of beaches covered in blood, of frozen mountains and endless fighting, of small, soft creatures who would not stop, would not surrender, would not break. But some of them also dreamed of lullabies, of kindness in the midst of war, of hands that could kill and comfort with equal skill. In the morning, they would begin their real training. They would learn tactics and strategy and the art of war. They would become soldiers, but they would never forget this day. They would never forget what they had learned about humanity. And whenever they met a human in the future, they would remember Powox's words. There is no force in this galaxy that can stand against a human who has something to fight for. Not strength, not numbers, not technology. Nothing.